Hey guys, it's Rachel from thetrendytomboy.com and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I thought it would be really fun to film some basics for you guys. So if you are new to makeup or looking to update your routine and not sure where to start, this is for you. So I'm going to be breaking this down into episodes, kind of like a series. So episode 1 for today is going to be foundation. So let's get started. I always start with a primer, and I highly recommend, even if you are new to makeup or don't really wear that much makeup, a primer is always a great place to start. It's gonna make your foundation last longer and it's just gonna go on a lot more smoothly. So I always use the YSL CC cream. I'll have that linked down below along with everything else I use. I always just dot it on my face like this. And the pro of this one is that it also has SPF. So you gotta protect that skin, y'all. So I'm just gonna kind of get that all into my skin here with my foundation brush. I also highly recommend a brush like this. I believe this is called a kabuki brush. I don't know, I could be butchering that. But I think this makes for really easy blending, which is obviously key for pretty much any kind of makeup, whether it's your foundation, your eyeshadow, whatever. Blending, as y'all know, is key. So putting a little bit more around my nose there. Like I said, I love this primer. I feel like it just really smooths everything out. It actually is supposed to help with redness. That's what it's designed for. So that's always a plus if you have kind of pinkish skin like I do. Highly recommend. But there are tons of primers out there. This is just the one that I really like, but I've also used one from Lancome that I really like, and I'll link that one up below if you're not really into the whole like CC cream or you don't want something that's colored. Like this one's a lavender one that's supposed to color correct, but obviously if you don't really feel like you have that problem or need that, I'll link another couple up down below that I really like. All right, so now that my face is primed, I'm gonna go in with my foundation. I also use a YSL foundation. I really just like the color and I like the way it applies. But of course the key with your foundation is just finding something that really matches your skin. A lot of people will tell you, oh yeah, you need to find something that's gonna match your face, which you do wanna find something that's obviously gonna match your face, but you really wanna match your body and like your neck. So for me, I get spray tans periodically because I'm on camera so often. And usually if you do spray tans or know anything about them, you know that your face is the first thing to fade because you're washing it, you know, you're putting makeup on and taking it off. You're kind of scrubbing off that first layer. So if the rest of my body is still kind of tan, but my face is kind of fading a little bit, it's gonna look kind of funky if my face looks super light and my body is still tan. So I personally abide by the match your body rule. Another thing that I like to do if I'm kind of in that situation, or maybe it's, you know, winter and you're not as dark as you are in the summer. Most people don't stay super tan year round. One thing you can do is take your normal foundation, buy something that's a little bit lighter. You don't even necessarily have to get the exact same one. You can go, you know, get a drugstore one that's several shades lighter, mix them together, and voila, you've got yourself a custom shade. Okay, I've got that nice and blended, so it's time to go on to the next step. So even if you are just starting out with makeup, you know, the primer and the foundation, that's pretty standard, and usually people want to go ahead and also set that with a powder. So I use this Chanel powder. Again, we'll link everything below for you guys. I've been using this one for years. It's just a powder that is slightly lighter than my foundation. I just use it, again, to set everything and keep everything in place. If you really are kind of like, you know, I want some coverage, but I don't want a full foundation, one thing that I recommend is either getting a powder foundation, which is what this one is. I only use just a tiny bit of it to set my foundation, but you can also use this one by itself. So if you just want a little bit of coverage, you know, you can just put the powder on a clean face without any foundation. Or if you're like, well, maybe I want a foundation, but I don't want something that's full coverage. There's so many things out there. There's BB cream, there's CC cream, there's tinted moisturizers. All three of those different options are still going to give you some coverage and do a little bit of color correcting and just smooth everything out without giving you that full-on, you know, foundation optimal coverage look. So maybe on days where you want something more natural, even get one of those and save your good foundation for when you're going out or if you're dressing up, that kind of thing. So I always use the fluffy brush, put a little bit of powder all over to set everything. Again, this is pretty much, we're still in the bare basics here. So after powder, I always do bronzer. Even if you're really tan, you still want to use a bronzer just because whenever you put powder on your face, it usually lightens you up just a little bit, and especially if you're going to be taking photos, which I'm the photo queen, I know lots about this, you will get that kind of unattractive flashback thing going on where you're going to look like a ghost on your face and then the rest of you will just look normal. So I always put a little bit of bronzer on. You just kind of want to go on the outside perimeter of your face. I always do kind of a backwards 3. So from the forehead, cheeks, chin, it's pretty foolproof. You don't want to put it like all over because then you might end up looking kind of orange or just kind of that pancakey flat look that nobody really wants. But if you do kind of get it in a place where you don't want it, just take your brush that you use for your foundation. You can just kind of blend it out and you're good to go. It's really hard to fully screw up your makeup, you know, because anything can be taken off. You can always add something. So don't be scared to try something new because you can always fix it. So when I was in high school, when I first kind of started really wearing makeup, this was pretty much all I did. Like I would stop here, my face was done. I don't even think I wore blush until I was probably, I don't know, like a junior or something. If you are maybe a little bit younger or you're just like, you know, I haven't ever worn makeup, this is kind of a good stopping point if you're new. But I think that really, especially if you do want something more natural, I would at least add a little bit of blush just because your foundation and your powder and your bronzer are kind of taking out that natural color. So I'm just going to be using just kind of a classic pink. Just going to get a little bit on my brush here. I just use a brush like this for blush. And you're just going to put it on the apples of your cheeks. So you might want to smile a little bit and just dust that on. There you go. You're done. But, you know, most people also are going to want to use concealer. So, you know, depending on maybe if you have a little bit of, I don't know, acne going on, it happens to all of us, or something that's also kind of, I don't know, sort of something that people want to treat or prevent is your under eye. A lot of people, as you've seen like on YouTube or just kind of in general, like in magazines and things like that, you got the under eye concealer game, which kind of ties into our contour, which we will get into in a bit, which is, to me, pretty advanced. But brightening up your under eye, I think, makes your whole face look, I don't know, just a little bit brighter and a little bit more cohesive. But I definitely think concealer, even if you don't want to use use it for your under eye, it's definitely something that is good to have in your makeup bag in case you do get like an acne flare up, or maybe you have a scratch or something on your face. I don't know, just anything that you want to cover up a little bit that your foundation didn't quite get, you got to use that concealer. So I'm just going to blend that in with a flat brush. Usually I would do my concealer before the powder and the bronzer, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm trying to kind of walk y'all through, you know, different levels of looks and kind of different levels of difficulty or different levels of just simply how much you want to spend and how much you want to invest in your makeup. So anyway, concealer, using the flat brush, and I'm just kind of fanning this out and blending it in. Taking the brush, and as you can see, I'm kind of pushing it downward so you don't have like this harsh, you know, bright line right here. You kind of have the brightness, but it kind of softly fades into the rest of your face. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just blending that in, brightening up that under eye. If you're like me and you get up at the crack of dawn, this is for you. My eyes are usually, by the end of the day, looking a little tired, so this is definitely a nice way to combat that and keep your eyes looking very bright and awake even if you're not awake. So another thing, if you really want to take the eye thing, the concealer, you really want to kick that up, you can bake it. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of baking before. I don't really like it, so I'm going to show y'all the quick version of baking. So if you're not familiar with baking, what it is you do your concealer and then you take a translucent powder and then you basically just pack this translucent powder on and you leave it for, I don't know, like 15, 20 minutes, maybe just 5 even. It kind of depends on, you know, where you are in your makeup routine or if you're in a hurry, etc. And what that's supposed to do is if you let it sit there, if you let it set, it will keep your concealer from creasing and it'll just keep it in place without going anywhere throughout the day. I don't really find it to be overly necessary, so what I do is kind of my own quick version of baking. So I take a little bit of translucent powder, put it on a flat brush, and I just kind of dust that on like so. I don't let it all sit there. Maybe I'm just impatient, but I just don't really feel like it's necessary for me. Obviously, if you have a problem with your concealer creasing, definitely go for the baking method. So right now we're still, I think, pretty basic. The next step is if you really want to go extra. So I am obviously the most extra of the extra because this is what I do. I love makeup. Next thing we're gonna do is contour. This is where things can get a little hairy. Contouring can either go really, really well or it can go really, really bad. So if you are new to makeup, I honestly don't recommend doing a full contour unless you're just a pro. Even I, personally, I don't do a whole lot. So I'm about to show you guys, this is all I do for contouring. So I get an angled brush, put kind of a darker medium brown shade. I'll link the one that I use down below. Get that on my angled brush and then I suck my cheeks in and look like a fish. And then I just take that and just go straight down. And as you can see, if you compare both cheeks, this one just looks a little bit more defined than the other one. I really like doing this because I feel like it still gives you some definition, but even if I'm doing a more natural look, oftentimes I will go ahead and still do this because I don't think it's anything extreme. I don't contour my nose. I don't usually really do, you know, like the forehead darkening and all that, and like down here at the chin. I kind of just do that with my bronzer, like I showed y'all with the backwards 3 shape. That's kind of where your shadow is naturally going to hit. I just like to kind of hollow out my cheeks to make my cheekbones look, I guess, higher and more model-esque. But so you can go even further than this, but I just choose not to because I just don't find it to be overly necessary. But this is really an easy way to do contouring if you want to kick it up a notch. I'm gonna blend that in just a little bit with my bronzer brush. And there you go. We have another stopping point here. If this is, you know, enough for you, totally cool. But if you want to go to the top level in Rachel world, I always use a highlighter. So I use a liquid highlighter. I just use a tiny bit on my finger. I use this one pretty much every time. I just really like the natural glow this one gives. Sometimes highlighters can get a little sparkly, and some people, you know, are really into that. It's just not really my thing. So I like this one because, again, I just feel like it looks very natural and gives just a nice soft glow without being anything super dramatic. So I just pat this in with my finger. Pretty easy, but, you know, again, for some people, this might feel like a lot, especially if you don't wear makeup that often. This full face would probably be a little shocking to look at in the mirror, but this is definitely kind of my top level here. Like if I'm going out, this is how I do my face, or usually if I'm shooting, because I don't go out, LOL. this is the point where I would usually, you know, do my eyes or do my lips or whatever. So obviously this is not a complete look. This is just my face. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned next week for my next episode of my Beauty Basics series. Thanks for watching. Bye.